Okay, good morning. I'm glad to be here today and hope you guys have had a wonderful last week or two. I'm here with the 100 Days to Greatness group, and we're talking about social media and 100 Days to Greatness and how they kind of tie together and work together. And I think one of the major things that's great about 100 Days to Greatness is it's based on a bunch of principles, and I want to go through some of those principles with you because those form the basis of what I think is the most valuable piece of 100 Days to Greatness. And the first principle that Brian Buffini covers in 100 Days to Greatness is that you prioritize the time that you spend on your sphere. In other words, you prioritize the people that you're working with so that you spend the most time with the people that can do you the most good. And I think that's one of those principles that is timeless, and I think it works, virtually every time it's tried. The next principle that I think is important is you focus on those few that can bring you the most referrals, that can build your sphere the most. And in a lot of ways, working with social media is the same. We're going to talk a little bit about some ways to do that. The next 100 Days to Greatness principle that I really like is it talks about time-efficient but effective methods to get them to refer you to others. Things like doing pop buys, things like writing personal notes. The next one down on the list is offer them items of value. So basically add to that bond and really help them to connect with you. And that's some of the highest value things that you can do is offer them something of value so that they'll either they'll use it and it'll be of something that stays with them so that they value what you do. And it reminds them that you're still in the business. And then the final principle that I think that's important for the 100 Days to Greatness is you continue to build your sphere until it's generating you the income level that you've set as your goal. And I think that's important. That's one of the things that the 100 Days to Greatness allows you to do, and it shows you how to do it, is to basically build your sphere until it's big enough that you want it. And even then, it shows you how to maintain it then. All right. So if we start talking about 100 Days to Greatness and the principles there, so let's think a little bit about what your online sphere works like. So what I did was everywhere where we put something on one of these principles, I just inserted the word online. So what we're going to talk about today is prioritizing the time that you spend online, focusing on the few that can build your online sphere the most. Use time-efficient but effective online methods to get them to refer you to others. And we're going to go through some of those and how they work and some ideas for you so that you can actually take what Buffini is teaching you to do in real life and apply it to your online efforts as well. Then things like offering them online items of value. Now, if you think a little bit about online items of value, we're going to get into this a little deeper, but one of the great things about online items of value is that they'll share it long before you ask them for a referral. You don't have to sit there and say, well, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. That's a great line, and it works very well. But if you can provide somebody with an online item of value, there's a pretty good chance that they will actually go out and they will share it with other people. And before you even ask for a referral, your reputation is growing. And we're going to talk about some ways to do that. The second to last one is continue to build your online sphere until it's generating you the income level that you set as a goal. And in that sense, your online sphere is no different than your offline sphere up until this point. But there's one last ingredient that we need to put in when we're talking about your online sphere, and that's create efficient ways for online people to contact you offline as well. And this is kind of the portal, this little create efficient ways for online people to contact you offline. Think about it this way. An online sphere does not buy real estate. Okay? An online sphere, somebody that contacts you online, before they can buy real estate through you, with you, or become your client, they have to actually connect with you, sit down with you, get face-to-face, and tell you what they want and work through the purchase of a piece of property. So we have to create as efficient way as possible for the people that we connect with online, because we can connect with people very easily online. The idea is to be able to pull them into your offline group, into your offline sphere, and to work with them there, face-to-face, belly-to-belly, however you want to say it. But it's really important that you're able to do that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your online versus offline A-list. One of the things we know from 100 Days to Greatness is that everybody has an A-list and a B-list and a C-list and all that. Let's define a little bit about what's great about your offline A-list, the normal A-list that you probably have. And I want you to start, pull out a piece of paper, and you've got your A-list out, I'm sure. So what I want you to do is start thinking of people that are on your online A-list and versus your offline. Let's talk a little bit about why they're different. Your offline A-list, those are people that are influential in in your community who have a great deal of ability to bring you other people. Maybe there's somebody in a related service business like a mortgage lender. Maybe there's somebody that's somebody that's an authority in your church or your civic group that you're connected with. Maybe there's somebody who's a large employer in the area, and by making friends with them, they're influential with other people in the business community, or maybe they're influential with people in their business, and that's helpful. Those are people that are on your offline A-list. So great. Let's talk a little bit about now who might be part of your online A-list, and I'd like to throw out an idea here. I think that sometimes your online A-list may be somebody totally different than your offline A-list. I was talking with Stephen about this before we got online here at one point, and I said, you know, my wife is probably the ultimate example of this. She is not someone that has some big powerful position or has the ability to talk to a lot of business people or things like that. She's not somebody that would refer a realtor out to a lot of other people. However, when it comes to online, she's pretty influential. A lot of the families, we have 4 kids, and 3 of them are in a high school band. And when they're in high school band, one of the things is that online she connects with all of them because she's the one that takes the pictures and sends them out and puts them up on Facebook. So everybody knows her on Facebook. All right? She can connect with 150 families in the community simply by pushing one button or sharing one thing. Or, as we're going to talk about, there's some ways to reach help that you can connect with her people, and we're going to talk about how that works. But you see what I mean? They're different. She's not somebody that you could say, oh, by the way, and would pass along something. Yet, if you sent her an online item of value, the chances are she would share it with a large number of people in the community. So what are you doing? You're building your online sphere, and then you just have to have a convenient way to take those online people offline, and you've actually impacted your sales. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about finding your online A folks. And I want to talk a little bit about the priorities that I would use to determine who constitutes an online A list. It starts for me with the number of friends on Facebook. I know that sounds hokey, right? But the number of friends is really important, because if you write on somebody's wall, that's the key. If I wrote on your wall, how many people would I be able to impact? If I was able to write on your wall, how many folks would I reach? And if I dropped an item of value on your wall, something that was important for you, how would I be able to get, how many people would actually read it? The other thing that's equally important is the frequency of posts. If you have somebody who has a large number of friends but they never post, one of the other pieces of that is that nobody comes to read what they post that often. And you really want people to come to you want a high number of friends and a high frequency of posts, because this means that people are coming back and forth to their site all the time. So for my online A list, I would want people that are doing that probably to the tune of maybe if they're over 100 people, then that's pretty impressive. And they post frequently, that's great. That's a good number for me, because if I can spend a minute and write a personal note on their wall, then that can get out. If there's 100 people and there's a pretty good frequency of posts, that's a pretty good sign that I can get out and connect with enough local people to make a difference. Okay, so let's talk about a little less important things that are out there. Excuse me for yawning. Okay, times that they share other people's stuff with their friends. Okay, that's a less important thing, because if I can write on their wall, then I can reach it. If they've got a high number of friends, high frequency of posts, I can reach out to their friends. The times that they share other people's stuff is somewhat important, but it's a little less than the others. Why? Because I don't necessarily need them to share it. Now, I would love that they do, and if they do, that's great, especially if people are used to getting stuff from them, where they share stuff and people listen to their advice, and then they are what I would call an influencer, somebody who can have some influence when it comes to their referral. The other thing that I want to bring up is who their friends are, because I think sometimes people have a mistaken idea that it doesn't matter who their friends are, and it does. If your friends are somebody where you're trusted in the community, even though a lot of my wife's friends are teenagers, their parents are also on there, because their parents are seeing pictures of them at the band performances. So you have to kind of look at who the makeup is. If your son has or daughter has a large group of friends, then they're all teenagers, there's not any adults in there, then it's really not, I mean, they could have thousands of friends, they could be posting all the time, heaven knows that they do, but it really isn't what I would call an online A-list. To be an A-lister, they really need to have a significant amount of people that could actually buy a home. Okay, so once we're okay with that, let's talk about some ideas for online items of value. One of the best things about Brian Buffini and his program is that he talks about items of value, and when you're online, one of the things that you can do is send a link. And here's why links work so well. If you put something and share a link with somebody, if you go to their wall and you write on their wall and say, hey, check this out, the reason why that works is because if they find it of value, they're going to share it with their friends. So it's basically one of those take me to your leader kind of things, which is great. You don't want to do it every day, but if every couple of weeks you dropped a link to some schools information or private schools information. If you knew somebody who was into private schools, let's say they have a sphere of influence where they have their kids in a Christian academy. Maybe you say, have you checked out the review on this the school where your kids go? And it's a big, nice, glowing review. That's a way to do it. One of the other things that you can drop periodically onto individual people in your A-list is the online relocation kit that we're working on right now. Now, it's not out yet, but it will be soon. And when it is, you can look up things like jobs, and you can get jobs real easily, right? And so if you know somebody's looking for jobs, say, listen, this is a great resource. If somebody is looking for jobs, feel free to click on it. It's got a job search there. You can link to mortgage calculators. You can link to real estate related news. You can link to crime data, and obviously you want to be the source of the source. So what you want to find is crime data. One of the other things that I think really works super well is positive thoughts and quotes. I love doing this. You know, one of my nieces is amazing at this. Every day she puts some funny little quote out there. You know, I'm not suggesting you do it every day, but what I am suggesting is that maybe if you do it once in a while and you post out there on somebody's wall just a unique thought, and you put in there what you're really trying to do is bring them back to your site. And maybe that positive thought and quote is surrounded by a little phrase, something like, I was helping somebody move into a new house the other day and thought of this. And maybe it's a little quote about change and how difficult it is to change. Things like that. You always want to keep it positive. You always want to keep it something that's thought-provoking. And you always want something that will bring them back to you if they like what they read. But these online items of value are something that they share, and the neat thing about it is when they share it, it will come back to you. They'll say, well, gosh, where'd you get it? And they'll be able to see that it came from you. Okay? So online items of value work. Another way that we can do this, and please forgive me for if you, I don't mean to be crude at all, I'm just having a little fun. Sometimes you can use humor as a sales tool, and you know, if you've ever read Reader's Digest and that humor in daily life or whatever section of Reader's Digest, it's awesome. See, these are some classic ways to build traffic to your website and build leads, and you can use your social media and your A-list to make these opportunities work for you. If you put something funny out there, like this photo was sent to me by a friend who's in Austin, Texas, and this actually was an MLS photo, right? And it doesn't look that different, except if you look out the window, you'll see that there are two dogs in the backyard, and if you which I found absolutely hilarious that this actually made it through to the MLS. It happens to all of us, and I would never recommend that you go out and ridicule another realtor. But if you put it up there as just something that's good humor that happens, that you can pass along. In Kentucky, I had a guy take a photo of somebody's house. You know, it wasn't one of the agents that was at the brokerage where I was, but in the MLS photo, you see these wafts of smoke coming up through the middle of the photo, and what it was he was taking the picture while he was smoking a cigarette, and the smoke was actually coming up through the photo. There's all sorts of ways to, and it was just one of those funny things that we only see here that make us giggle and make us laugh. But you know, it makes a great point, is that you take great photos and you strive to take great photos. Every once in a while, sometimes somebody lets one slip, and if you put it out there like that it's just good humor, it's a lot of fun. So the point is, you can put these photos in there. It reminds them that you're a realtor and that you're in business doing it. It reminds them that you're going to have a good time with it, and it also reminds them that you're a professional. And done correctly, it will not offend anybody. It will be it's designed to just have a little fun with people and to brighten their day a little bit. So the point of all of this is to get people to start a conversation. Markets are conversations, and markets being conversations mean that you can't get them to become a client unless you have a conversation with them, whether it's online, and then then you need to take it offline. But let's start with the idea of starting a conversation. I want to share with you a little secret that I use, a couple secrets that I use a lot. I use them very heavily in social media. I also use them in email and other things. If you want to get a conversation started, you better ask a question, right? I mean, that's just part of the game. If you want to get a conversation started, ask a question. So here's how you do it in social media. We all know that there's a thing like the pregnant pause, right, where you ask a question that can't be answered with yes or no, and then you sit there and you wait through that uncomfortable silence until they say something. The idea with getting people to get a conversation online is that how many of your Facebook posts, and go ahead and go back and look, how many of your Facebook posts actually end in a period, and how many of them actually end in a question mark? More should end in a question mark than with a period. Now think about that. If you leave a question on a Facebook status, aren't you going to get a lot more response and a lot more answers? Absolutely. So because it's the pregnant pause that just goes on forever. It sits out there and says, I'm asking a question, now I'm waiting for somebody to answer it. So, maybe you start it with, what's your worst moving experience? Any of those type of things where you ask a question and you just let it sit. And maybe you tell a little story first and then ask a question, but the idea excuse me for yawning again, the idea is you need to start a conversation. In order to do that, you need to ask a question. If you combine that with a link that they want to share, then you're on your way. So for example, you share a resource and ask them how that resource might help them, or ask them to comment on it or to put other resources up. That's a great way to do it. You combine a link with a question, and boom, you're ready to go. That's how you get conversations started online. Now, once you get the conversation started, then you have to get it off to your offline sphere, because you really want to get them connected and going. The bottom line is this: you need to make off-ramps off of your Facebook page, off of your email, off of your website, that all go to connecting with you for real. And these are known as calls to action. So maybe, give me a call and I'll give you the value of your home. Give me a call or send me an email and I will be happy to send you this guide. Give me a call if you want to look at this house. Those are all the calls to action, and you want to make plenty of those and make them plentiful all over the place. You want to put them everywhere that you can, not necessarily to harp on people, but as much as anything to help them remember what you're doing, and to remind them to take action. Because most web pages, and most Facebook pages for that matter, are information that you have to combine with an invitation, and the call to action is the invitation. So if you think about how this works, it's really kind of a natural process. You get the conversation started offline, and you give them opportunities to contact you offline. Maybe it's via phone, maybe it's via email, maybe it's in person. Maybe you give them a training opportunity where you're going to talk a little bit about the current real estate market. Whatever the case, what you're really trying to do is to give them the opportunity that they need to contact you straight away. So that's how and that should be a primary emphasis. So if you go look at your Facebook pages and ask yourself, have I given them enough opportunity? Have I given them enough ability to get offline so that I can actually do something with them? Because until I get belly to belly, and I think that's one thing most people online miss. When we start prioritizing our time, and I do want to go back I'm going to hit page up here real quick. I do want to go back to something that's almost at the beginning here. Okay? This prioritize the time spent online. It's really easy with social media, because it's an easy form of communication, to just be talking to people and not really connecting with people. This prioritization, find that A-list. Find the people who's going to be the ones that, if you get them in your camp, will really build your business. That's the key to online and social media. It just is. If you can find the 10 or 15 people and you can drop them personal notes onto their wall, and maybe you're connecting with them in a way that they're comfortable with, right? And that's the most important thing. If you can connect with those people, then that's high priority time. It doesn't take as long as you think. One of the great things about working in this day and age is that there are a lot of different things that you can do. There's so many avenues that you can go down. And a lot of times what most people ask me is, well, Eric, how do I do it? How do I choose what I do? Prioritize your A-list. Focus on them. Don't focus on anybody else. That's the secret to Buffini and what he's doing with 100 Days to Greatness anyway, is to focus on the offline, on that A-list, and let the B's, C's, and D's do what you need to with them. Have a more automated approach to them. But when it comes to the A-list, folks, I think you've got an A-list that's an online A-list as well, and that's how you work to get them started. So with that said, I hope if you have any questions, feel free to call me, or you can email me at ericblackwell@insightbb.com, which is INSIGHTBB.com. And once again, it's been a pleasure. If you have any questions that you want to ask online, feel free. You haven't had any so far, and I don't see any. So with that, I'm going to turn the time back over to you for the rest of the 100 Days to Greatness.